It's Jim Rowan. How you going? Another historical podcast coming up here. Um, so I've decided I'm not going to date it, but if you're desperate for a weather check, it's blue skies, hot day, nice breeze. Hopefully not good weather for sky travel. Uh, don't need more of those interruptions. But we, if anyone listened to, a few people listened to the Enochiism one, which is nice, the Enochiism podcast, and then I went over 2006 in a bit more detail. So worth listening to those for a bit of context surrounding this event, January 4th, 2007, the first Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome. But I will be providing a bit of context, a lot of context actually, as much as is reasonably afforded, that I can afford to it. I've got a little summary for each kind of person here and what's going on. So I don't know if you haven't seen this before, maybe it's something you can use to go back and watch the matches. I'm also posting these kind of summaries up on cagematch.net. Who knows where else they might end up, but you can check out the written version there. Let's get into it though. So we'll go back to November of 2006 when this event was first announced. So the New Japan president, Simon Inoki, got together with the All Japan president, Keiji Muto, and they held a press conference in the center of the Tokyo Dome to promote this, or what they promoted as, a celebration of their upcoming 35th anniversary. And they also said it'd be a unique opportunity for crossover dream matches. They said both the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the Triple Crown Heavyweight Championships would be defended, and didn't actually announce any matches. They just said the title belts will be there, the champions will be there, and they actually didn't announce any matches until just weeks before the show. November 2006, just announcing the event. There's only a couple months until the event occurs. But yeah, they took their time in announcing matches as well, which in fairness is a hard thing to, when you've got, two companies, they both want their guys to go over. It's, I wonder how much of it they'd figured out before they announced this. Or maybe they just announced it first and then, so both of them knew the pressure was on, they had to come up with decisions. But it was the November prior to this, by the way, that Yuke's, the Japanese video game company, took over New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that was in November of 2005. And they had created New Japan video games back in the 90s, but since then had been more focused on the American wrestling scene, those SmackDown. Well, I know the SmackDown games for sure because I had a PlayStation, so I was playing the SmackDown games. I don't know. I think maybe they were involved in the Nintendo games as well. So in that time, that would have been Day of Reckoning, I think. But I don't know. I didn't play those. I heard they were really good, but I never had a Nintendo. And anyway, so they're developing these games, and now they want to return to the Japanese wrestling scene. So they come up with this idea for a game called Wrestle Kingdom. And the idea of Wrestle Kingdom is that it stars from all across the pro wrestling landscape in Japan. So there's going to be New Japan wrestlers, All Japan wrestlers, Noah wrestlers, freelancers, everyone's in it. And that's the reason that they chose Wrestle Kingdom as the name for the Tokyo Dome show, because even if it's just New Japan, All Japan, it's still, some crossover matches. They were probably more. It was probably more to do with the video game than it was to do with the event. I mean, they name these Tokyo Dome events. If you again listen to that Enochiism podcast, I don't know if I read out all the names, but they've got a different name for every event. It's not like WrestleMania, where it's WrestleMania every year. They were coming up with random names. The last one was like Tucon Series Part 1, and there was never a Part 2. It's just that's it. It's just that Part 1. And Brock Lesnar beat Nakamura in a crap match. So, yeah. Actually, it wasn't a crap match. I shouldn't say that. It just wasn't a Tokyo Dome main event match. Alright, so that's where we got the Wrestle Kingdom moniker from. And, of course, it was a stick, we know now. But going into this event, Riki Choshu is the head booker. He's tasked with the difficult task of trying to bring some stability back to this roster. Start pushing some guys that are actually there to wrestle and aren't going to be off fighting for K1 or for Pride or anything else. Although, I guess at this time, Pride is less of an issue for them. They're on the way out. But, actually, by this point, Pride's gone, I think. That's not important to look up. Anyway, so at the start of 2007, going into this year, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion is Hiroshi Tanahashi. He's in his first reign. He won the title when Lesnar was stripped of it in, I believe, July of 2006. And the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion is Minoru, who's in his fourth reign. He's been in that scene for a long time now. The IWGP Tag Team Champions are Wild Child, Manabu Nakanishi and Takao Omori. That's their first reign. I think they were the interim Tag Team Champions, though, as well. So that's their first full title official reign. The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship is held by Gedo and Jado, and they're also veterans of that scene. That's their fourth reign as champions. So, to the event. Once again, the 4th of January, 2007, New Japan Pro Wrestling presents Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome. The first match... Actually, I'm going to look this back up. I've got it over here. This is what they call it. This is the beautiful English of New Japan World. That's a term, I'm not being racist. Get off my back. Okay, here we go. Tokyo Dome first match. Welcome to Tokyo Dome. New Year Funny Waltz. That's what it's called, New Year Funny Waltz. So, in the New Year Funny Waltz, otherwise known to us curmudgeons as just a six-man tag team match, Ryusuke Taguchi, El Samurai, and Masanobu Fuchi versus Kikutaro, Akira Raijin, and Nobutaka Araya. So, again, like I said, let me give you some context here surrounding what's going on at the time with these guys. On the New Japan team, we've got Taguchi. He's on his way up at this point as a junior heavyweight. Last year is the first time that he won the Junior Tag Team Championship. That was with El Samurai, who of course is in this match as well. Samurai is a veteran. He's got 2 IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championships in his locker. And he's one of the few to hold the J Crown. So he's winding down his career at this point. And then their third partner is actually, it's not really a New Japan team because Fuchi is an All Japan junior heavyweight legend. During those 90s, what do they call it? King's Road matches in the 90s and All Japan, Fuchi was, I mean, he didn't have a lot of, they very much focused on the heavyweight division at that time, so Fuchi held the junior title with relative ease, and had just ridiculous reigns of thousands of days. But he was very much involved, especially in the tag matches. He'd be fighting alongside Taue and Kawada, and you know those tag matches they would do were phenomenal. So he's getting on now though. He's a little bit older, but absolute legend. So speaking of All Japan, let's talk about the other team. We've got Kikutaro, who's the masked, very exaggerated. He's an alter ego of the person under the mask. Of course, he's very goofy, but also self-important. He wears coloured tracksuits and baseball caps and has a mask that must be hard to see from underneath. But yeah, he's just kind of a parody. He's a parody character. He kind of just makes fun of pro wrestling, which I kind of like. It's one of my things that there's so many silly things, silly rules, or rules that have just become rules and have become outdated, but we keep them because that's what pro wrestling is. And oh look, there's a helicopter. Good on you. He is very much a comedy wrestler. And then Raijin he's a fairly young up-and-comer at the time, and Araya, the third partner on the All Japan team, something of a journeyman across the 90s with limited success. Just kind of making up the numbers, to be honest. But for those of you playing at home, if anyone's got this pulled up on New Japan World and wants to know who's who, Taguchi, you might recognize, is got an ill-advised afro at the moment, but it looks the same otherwise. He starts the match against Raijin, who's got the blonde mohawk. Fuchi is the old guy on the New Japan side. Araya is the stouter gentleman, to put it politely. And Samurai, of course, in the black mask. And then you can't miss Kikutaro. He's got definitely the most ridiculous outfit we're going to see on this show. And maybe of all time, anyway. But that's who they are. Let's get into the match. So, as I said, it was Taguchi starting with Raijin. And, the crowd's still filing in. So it's not overly raucous at this point. Next in's Kikutaro against Fuchi, and Kikutaro is very animated, as referred to previously. He applauds Fuchi's clean break, but then when he's got the opportunity to break himself, he doesn't do it cleanly at all. Fuchi pushes him back into the ropes, and Kikutaro counts the break himself, and then he squabbles with the referee over the count, who slaps him across the head, and the crowd laughs at that. And then Fuchi kicks Araya a couple of times, because he's not particularly intimidated by the man in pink, it seems, Kikutaro. But then Kikutaro gets Fuchi down. But every time he goes for the cover, and the referee counts to one, or goes to count like the first one, he pops back up. And then he'll go down again and cover Fuchi again, and the referee goes down to make the count, and he pops back up. And this happens several times before the referee's had enough, and he kicks him in the head. Kicks him in the head. The crowd laugh at that too. It's funny. It's so unexpected. The referee really does not have any time at all for Kikutaro's antics. But then Fuchi sets Kikutaro up in the corner in a very compromising position. He tags in El Samurai, who gets too close and cops an eye poke, and then a low blow. Samurai answers back similarly. The referee cops a low blow from Kikutaro, who then tags out. Samurai takes clotheslines in the corner from everyone except Araya, who he kicks every time. And Araya's teammates try to help him connect by swinging him into the corner with a bit more speed, but it doesn't work. Kikutaro just... Fuji's in the corner. Wait, no, sorry, it's Samurai in the corner. And he's just keeps kicking Araya every time he comes in. Cops clotheslines from the other two, kicks Araya. And then Kikutaro just gets sick of Araya failing, so he turns on him in frustration, kicks Araya while he's down. Evidently, Araya is only in this match to get kicked. That's all he contributes to the whole match. But it's kind of a running theme that's pretty funny. And then Samurai and Raijin resume a somewhat normal match, which Raijin gets the better of. Kikutaro and Taguchi get tagged in and go chop for chop. Kikutaro attempts to distract Taguchi by pointing away, but Taguchi just slaps him and continues his attack. And, perhaps important to note that Taguchi is indeed the owner of a funky weapon at this time, and he advertises it appropriately with his swiveling hips. There's a moonsault attempt by Kikutaro that misses, but he hits a shining wizard and does actually try a legitimate pinfall attempt, but it's kicked out of. And then Kikutaro has Taguchi in a headlock, kind of ready for a suplex, and he's ready he's yelling at the crowd as he has Taguchi there, and he throws a few knees to the body just to keep Taguchi in place. The crowd are cheering or laughing at whatever he's saying, but he's talking forever, and he's obviously stalled too long, because as soon as he actually goes for the suplex, he gets suplexed. And then there's a big missile drop kick that nearly beats him too, but Kikutaro's teammates make the save, and then Fuji throws him on his head with a back suplex. Samurai drops him with the reverse DDT, and Taguchi lands Dodon, the facebuster, to finish Kikutaro and win the match. So, not that makes much of a difference really, but it was just a silly opening match, but Taguchi gets the win over Kikutaro, Kikutaro being the star of this match, despite being the one that lost. I thought he was genuinely funny. He made me laugh several times the first time I watched this match. And even since then, that stuff with the referee, I don't know. I know it's so hokey and dopey, and I don't know. I think it has its place if it's done well. And, despite me not even understanding what he's saying, his physical comedy is worthwhile for me. So I enjoyed it. I thought that was a good match. Not necessarily one to go out of your way for, though. Next up, tag team match. Oh, let's see what this one's called. It is Artistic Tag Team Battle. Jeez, okay. That is between Gato and Jado, the current IWGP Tag Team Champions, or Junior Tag Team Champions, I should say. Although there's no titles on the line here, as far as I can tell anyway. Versus Tokyo Grentai, which is Mizada and Nosawa Rongai. As mentioned, they're the champions, but for a bit of background on Gato and Jado, they lost the tag titles, the junior tag titles, to Kanemoto and Inoue in March of 2005. And then they then, I think it was around then, they joined CTU, Jushin Thunder Liger's stable, the Controlled Terrorism Unit, the heel stable, of course. And then in July 2006, they won the junior tag titles back. And that was for the fourth time. They beat Samurai and Taguchi, and they go into this match as the reigning champions since then. And they've been with New Japan since 2001, and they've been a top junior tag team that whole time. On the All Japan side, though, if you're less familiar with these guys, Mizada and Nosawa they've got a long history of tagging together and turning on each other as well. in several Japanese and Mexican promotions. In their most recent stint together, they won the first annual Junior Tag League in All Japan. So for those of us playing at home, you may well recognize Jado and Gedo. They're wearing the short trunks, the short shorts trunks. Jado has the green trim and Gedo has cute little angel wings on his. And then Mizada has the red and black shorts, and Nosawa has a rib cage on his shorts and white streaming tears on his face. And as mentioned, artistic tag team battle. Nosawa wrestles for a Juggalo promotion, by the way, so a promotion run by the Insane Clown Posse, which is, of course, the peak of the musical industry and of musical artistry. So I believe that artistic tag team battle is accurate when it at least comes to Nosawa and what he brings to the contest. And if you need more evidence behind that, by the way, Nosawa's full billing is Nosawa out of the question, which is a play off a comment made by Kaz Hayashi a couple of years prior, who said that Nosawa is out of the question when asked about a potential challenge from Nosawa for the All Japan Junior Heavyweight Championship. And Nosawa changed his name and then ended up getting that match eventually, but lost, and then just kept the name anyway for the rest of his career because he is a true artiste. But let's get to the match. Tokyo Gurentai attack before the bell. In sync, but in fairness, the bellboy was pretty slow to get his one job done before as the two teams stared off. They were standing there a while. Nosawa has Gedo in a choke with a camera cable, while Jado and Mizada begin the match in the ring, becoming the de facto legal competitors. It's pretty fast-paced, with no love lost kind of a match. The same is true when their partners enter. Nosawa gets the better of Gedo before he and his partner show off some rapid teamwork and gain a significant advantage. Both men bite a hand of Gedo's as he screams in pain. The referee doesn't seem to mind. He's pretty lazy in general, actually, and he's pushed around by Nosawa when he just strolled over to count a pinfall, so the referee kind of deserves that pushing about, really. But there's constant tags by Tokyo Gurentai to keep them fresh while Gedo suffers the consequences. At one point, Mizada pulls Gedo toward his partner by the fingers, mocking Jado, who stretches for his partner that's only just beyond him. Finally, Gedo is able to catch a break, moving as Mizada dives toward him in the corner, and he kicks Nosawa in the head. Jado tags in and is ready to take on both men, but the crowd aren't really loud for any of this. Wasn't much of a hot tag. Jado's belly-to-back suplexes prove very effective, especially when he only has Mizada left in the ring to deal with. So Jado's turned the momentum of the match around. He locks in a crossface on Mizada, and Gedo does everything he can to hold back Nosawa, but in time eventually Nosawa is able to break free and break the hold. Gedo rejoins the match with renewed energy, but takes too long on the top turnbuckle and ends up taking the worst of it. It looks like Gato's going for a tombstone, and Mizada tries flipping and reversing it into a pile driver of his own, but it doesn't quite connect. The match is a bit of a mess at this point. Everyone's contributing evenly. Tag strings be damned. Gato grabs a little pole from behind the ring post, but the referee spots him because that's a tried and true tactic of Gato's. Jado uses that distraction, though, to pop Nosawa in his juggalos from behind, and down he goes. They hit a double team, middle rope powerbomb, then Gato follows up with the top turnbuckle splash, a really nice frog splash, to make sure victory is out of the question for Nosawa. And that's all Shaggy 2 Dope wrote. The IWGP Junior Tag Champions come away victorious after a gutsy performance by Gato in particular. So, Yeah, good match. Not bad. Pretty good match. And I mean, very different from the first match. Different goal set for the match. I mean, this was a proper wrestling match, whereas the first one was just kind of a silly warm-up match. But they were both good for what they were attempting to be. And the crowd didn't get behind them very much. That's and I mean, it's a big cavernous stadium. You know, they don't have a ton of people there at the time, but so that can't help. But anyway, they're not there to steal the show. They're there to just have a good match, and that's what they did. Moving on to another 6-man tag team match. Let's see what they called this one. Probably should have written these down. Let's see. Third match. Rockin' Your Hearts of... I'm guessing that's a bad word. It's FXXXING Outlaws. Rockin' Your Hearts of fucking Outlaws. With an apostrophe in the wrong place. Yeah, okay. GBH, so that's Makabe, Togi Makabe, Tomohiro Ishii, and Toru Yano versus Bull Buchanan. It just says Buchanan here, though. D'Lo Brown and Travis Tomco. So a bit of history on GBH first. Hiroshi Tenzan is the leader of GBH, and he's full of confidence after his somewhat surprising G1 Climax triumph and a big win over his former tag team champion, former tag team partner, Masahiro Chono. He announced the formation of this stable at that time. He invited, amongst others, Makabe, Ishii, and Yano. And his criteria for joining GBH, or Great Bash Heel, was to be strong, bad, and cool. And that his intention was to revive the old, beautiful New Japan, whatever that means to him. And the way they would go about it is by causing GBH grievous bodily harm. So that's something else GBH can stand for. But after failing in his challenge for Tanahashi's IWGP Championship, and then failing in the G1 Tag League with Liger, Tenzan decided to enter All Japan's Real World Tag League, is what they call it, with his longtime partner Satoshi Kojima. And this left Makabe as the de facto leader of GBH back over in New Japan. So he's 33 years old, Makabe. He's recently won his first title, the WEW Heavyweight Championship, during a period of invasion into the Apache Pro Wrestling Army promotion by GBH. And the WEW title, it's been active across several promotions. It's generally kind of a death match or a hardcore title. And I believe he's the champion at this point still, going into this match. Ishii has been a freelancer until just recently, because he spent the majority of his time as a junior heavyweight. But Riki Choshu, of course, aforementioned the booker of New Japan, Riki Choshu was also Ishii's trainer. And Riki Choshu promoted him to heavyweight in 2005. So he's been on that track since with New Japan. He's 31 years old, by the way. Yano's the third member here. He's 28. He's been a devious cheater for a large part of his professional career, despite being a decorated amateur. And Ishii and Yano have been a tag team together since 2005, when at that time they were a part of Chono's Black New Japan stable. Then on the All Japan side, Buchanan and D'Lo Brown were members of an All Japan faction oddly called Roughly Obsess and Destroy, so R-O and D, or R-O-D. They were a mid-card tag team of limited success, though the faction around them is fairly successful. In September 2006, those two turned on Taiyo Keiya and Taka Michinoku to join Voodoo Murders, and that's who they represent here. They recently competed together in All Japan's Real World why can't I say that? Real World Tag League, where they came fourth out of 7 teams. And then, of course, the other guy is Travis Tomco. He's a New Japan wrestler, actually. He's with the new Chono stable. It's Chono and Nakamura-gun at this point. That wasn't to last long anyway. But I'm not sure why exactly he's in this match, if there's any real rhyme or reason to it. The best I can come up with is I think because he's a tag team with... This is Tomco, by the way, sorry. Tomco's a tag team with Bernard, Giant Bernard, Matt Bloom, A-Train. And I think Bernard turned on GBH to join the Chono and Nakamura-gun stable, and he was a tag team with Tomco. So I think Tomco was involved in that turn, although Tomco was never with GBH as far as I know. I don't know. So that's as much sense as I could make out of it. But anyway, that's those guys. For those of you playing at home, so we've got blonde and in purple, Makabe. Blonde and in red, Yano. Ishii wouldn't dare risk damaging his full head of hair, so he's the odd one out. He hasn't bleached his hair. His parents wouldn't let him. And then on the All Japan side, there's the big bald guy with tattoos, and that's Tomco. And then there's the big bald guy without tattoos, and that's Buchanan. And then finally there's the biggest bald head that belongs to D'Lo. But getting to the match. Yano flicks water at his opponents, sending them reeling back in horror, and GBH rush them together. Tomco overpowers Yano and Makabe, allowing the All Japan team to take the ring back. Makabe and Tomco eventually meet in the middle to begin the match properly. Buchanan shows a little agility, hitting a diving clothesline off the top rope. The All Japan guys tag each other quickly, each dealing damage to Makabe, until a power slam on D'Lo changes the momentum. Yano and Ishii work well together. The fight spills out onto the ramp, where D'Lo is bumped about by Makabe and Yano. Ishii shows great strength in the ring despite visibly being the smallest in there. Yano has a little tool he likes to use, that he uses to strike D'Lo, while Makabe has the referee distracted. And now GBH are isolating D'Lo from his team, showing their ability as a unit. Tomco finally gets tagged in and goes on a rampage before oddly tagging a perceptibly tired D'Lo. So now D'Lo's back in. So either Tomco's stupid or he thinks Buchanan really sucks. Maybe both. D'Lo does the right thing. He tags Buchanan in, and that begins a spell of domination from the Gaijin team. But Buchanan takes too long on the turnbuckle. He had Makabe up there. Yano makes a save. And then it's Yano hits Buchanan with a sneaky chair shot. And then Makabe capitalizes on that with a lariat. So Buchanan eats the pinfall. And I suppose proves Tomco right for not tagging him in. And at this point it's 3-0 to New Japan. Makabe wins this one. Another good match, like nothing spectacular. It was well worked. It was enjoyable enough. And again, not there to steal the show. It's just there to be fun to watch. Okay, you know what? We might sneak one more in here. So, the 8-man tag team match, Voodoo Murders, aforementioned. This is a All Japan team. So, well, Voodoo Murders is an All Japan faction. But on this team, they have Giant Bernard, Rosie, Suwama, and Taru. And then on the New Japan side, it's Manabu Nakanishi, Naofumi Yamamoto, Riki Choshu, and Takashi Iizuka. Just on the New Japan side, Nakanishi, a former Olympian, he was kind of forced into the MMA-focused years of New Japan to his detriment, and then overlooked when the new breed came along. So he's currently half of the tag team champions, as mentioned before, but he competed in the recent tag league with Yamamoto, not his championship partner. So Yamamoto's a young man that's not been particularly successful yet, but he is becoming popular amongst the fans. Riki Choshu, of course, he's been with New Japan nearly from the beginning. He won his first IWGP Championship in 1989. In the same month, he won the tag titles with Iizuka, and he is the legend behind the popularization of the Scorpion Deathlock. So Choshu recently returned to New Japan. It was 2005 when he took up the Booker role. And Iizuka, the final member of that team, well-travelled, decorated tag team wrestler. He's apparently recently been, at this time, helping in the New Japan Dojo. Then on the All Japan side, Taru is the sinister and vicious founder of Voodoo Murders. It's a faction that has become a prominent force in All Japan through violence and a general lack of respect. They are known to put their victims in body bags, and they like to use baseball bats as weapons. And Bernard was one of the early members of Voodoo Murders in 2005. He left a big gap in the team when he came to New Japan in 2006, but he's really impressed with New Japan. He's worked his way into title contention. He's actually had 2 matches so far for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Unsuccessful, of course, on both occasions, though. Then there's Rosie, R-O-Z, known as just Rosie in WWE. So he initially joined ROG. I was talking about those guys before, Roughly Obsess and Destroy. And that's when he arrived in All Japan in 2006, but like Buchanan and D'Lo, he defected to Voodoo Murders. And then Suwama is a young All Japan Dojo alumnus, and he's aligned himself with the group in early 2006. So, for those of you playing at home, Bernard is the freshly back-shaven man with tribal tattoos across his torso. Rosie is the big guy in the same clothes that I think he would wear into the pool. Suwama has bright red hair. Taru has the Neapolitan ice cream hair. The other team's a bit harder to kind of figure out who's who. They've all had the same stylist, I suppose. Yamamoto is the youngest. He's the slimmest one. You might recognize him as Yoshitatsu if you're a WWE fan or know of that character at the time. Iizuka has a little facial hair that makes him the more mature looking. He's got a bit more size. Nakanishi has the shortest hair. Choshu has Choshu's the oldest. No offense, big fella. Okay, so this match. The trend of the night continues with all those All Japan reprobates rushing in before the bell. The 2 seniors are the first to clash when the dust settles, and the crowd show they can get loud, because they get loud for Choshu. And he just stays in the ring after tagging out, and the referee doesn't really bother him. Just kind of a power move, I think. Maybe he books the referees as well. Nakanishi shows he wields a lot of power as he throws Taru around and strikes forcefully with chops. Yamamoto comes in and cops a low blow by the savvy veteran right away, changing the momentum of the match. Then Rosie, Bernard, and Suwama toss the poor kid around for a while before he gets dragged into the crowd by Taru. This guy's a real menace. He throws Yamamoto back into the ring, he assaults a commentator, and then when he's tagged in, he chokes Yamamoto with his wrist tape. His partners split Yamamoto's legs, and Taru mercilessly delivers an axe kick to the groin. I don't think that was even worked. And that was definitely a time he could have used a run-in from his team, by the way. I'd have been pretty salty at my team if I was Yamamoto. But he fights on. He tries reversing a clothesline, but it's botched badly. It still gives him enough time to make a tag, though. And in comes Choshu to rev up the crowd. There's a powerful lariat on Taru, and then on Suwama. And then after some resistance on Rosie too, Nakanishi joins in the fun. He knocks around Taru and Bernard. And he's over pretty big too. He's given out free lariats as well. The crowd pop big when he manages to lift Rosie up onto his shoulders, but it proves too much and Bernard puts a stop to his ascendancy. Iizuka uses the chance to make his own mark on the match, and Taru is once again on the receiving end, this time of a tight sleeper hold. Rosie breaks it up and Suwama tags in, taking back control from Voodoo Murders. Iizuka makes a quick comeback and lets Yamamoto in, who strings together some offense on Suwama but gets cut off by Bernard with a huge raised powerbomb. Bernard and Nakanishi meet in the ring, as they did several times last year in high-end competition. As the match begins to lose control around them, it comes back to Suwama and Yamamoto. A high-angle back suplex with a bridge from Suwama, keeping the youngster down for the count, one youngster to another. Afterwards, Bernard turns on his former All Japan teammates after an argument with the leader Taru, who he choke bombs. Rosie and Suwama attack him, but he escapes and taunts him as he leaves. So Bernard is no longer... He left Voodoo Murders when he left the company, but they came back. They were still buddies. No longer. He's All Japan now. He's actually kind of a... I mean... He's a part of a heel faction and all, but he's, it's a bit... The lines are blurred more in Japanese or New Japan, I think. He can be a bit of a babyface too. The New Japan fans kind of like him. So he's a bit of a tweener, I suppose you'd say. But anyway, this was a pretty good match. I suppose I could give the benefit of the doubt to the last couple of matches to say that the fans were still just kind of filing in, and there was a few more fans around to catch this match, and hence the increased noise. But Riki Choshu, and to a lesser extent Nakanishi, made sure to get what may be a more casual than usual audience going in this one. Nothing too special about the match, but enjoyable nonetheless. Do I have time for one more? You know what, I'm going to call it there, just because I keep saying I want to keep these short, and this is a reasonable amount of time. So we might split this into 3 or so. There's plenty more matches to go, but we're getting to the pointy end with the championships on the line and whatnot. I'm not sure when I have the time to come back and add to this one, but a week maximum. Well, actually, there's New Japan matches this week. We'll have to see. I'll try and put it together as quickly as I can, but that'll do for this one. I'm going through it slowly because I want to give as much context surrounding these matches as I can. That's what makes it more interesting to me. If I go back and watch these matches cold, I don't know who some of the guys are. I don't really know what's going on. So, and obviously I can't understand the commentary, so I don't know what stories are going on. I think that's a big roadblock for a lot of people. So I hope this gives you a bit of insight into what's going on at the time in New Japan, what's going on for these particular wrestlers, where they are in their careers, and why they're having this match, and what the results mean. So far, the results don't mean a lot of these opening matches, but that's to be expected. So I hope that helps. Hopefully that makes you want to go watch these matches on New Japan World. Look out for my write-ups on each of these on cagematch.net. And until next time, thank you very much for listening. Have a good one.